Hi everyone, Radhe Radhe. In this video, we're going to be doing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4. And Vidur has just been speaking to Uddhava, and I think here now he's going on and asking, questioning, requesting information about Bhagwan Shri Krishna from somebody else, from other people. I'm not sure, but let's figure out. Let's find out. So let's call out to Bhagwan Shri Krishna. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Dear Bhagwan Shri Krishna, please help us understand the contents of this chapter 4 and please help us to absorb it and please give us the intelligence, the memory and whatever is needed, the bhakti and the heart and the motivation and whatever is needed in order for us to really understand this chapter, absorb it and help us make it, bring us closer to you. Help it bring us closer to you. Okay, so let's read. Vidur approaches Maitreya. 1. Thereafter, all of them, the descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook of the remnants of prasad and also drank liquor made of rice. By drinking, they all became delirious, and bereft of knowledge, they touched the cores of each other's hearts with harsh words. 2. As if by frictions of bamboos, destruction takes place. So, at sunset, by the interaction of the falls of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place. 3. Bhagwan Sri Krishna, after foreseeing the end of his family by his internal potency, went to the bank of river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree. 4. The Lord is the vanquisher of distresses of one who is surrendered to him. Thus, he who desired to destroy his family told me previously to go to Badarikashram. 5. Yet, in spite of my knowing his desire to destroy the dynasty, O Arindama Vidur, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear separation from the lotus feet of my master. 6. Thus following, I saw my patron and master Bhagwan Sri Krishna sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of Saraswati river, though he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune. 7. The Lord's body is blackish but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as Bhagwan by his four hands, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments. 18. Okay, this thing really shot up. 8. The Lord was sitting taking rest under a young banyan tree with his right lotus foot on his left thigh, and although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. 9. At that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher of the great sage Krishna Dvaipanya Vyas, reached that spot out of his own perfect accord. 10. Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to Bhagwan and he was listening in pleasing attitude with his shoulder lowered. With a smile and particular glance upon me, having allowed me to rest, Bhagwan spoke as follows. 11. O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affair performed sacrifices. You particularly desire to achieve my association. This is very difficult for the others to obtain, but I award it unto you. 12. My O honest one, your present life is the last and supermost because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode Vaikuntha by leaving this universe of conditioned living entities. Your visit to me in this lonely place because of your pure and unflinching devotional service is a great boon for you. 13. O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sages describe as Srimad Bhagavatam. 14. Uddhava said, O Vidur, when I was thus favored at every moment by Bhagwan and addressed by him with great affection, my words failed in tears and the hairs on my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I, with folded hands, spoke like this. 15. O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realm of the four principles of religiosity, economy, development, sense gratification, and liberation. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But, O Great One, as far as I am concerned, I have preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet. 16. My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see your greatness engages in fruitive work, although you are free from all desires, and that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time, and that you enjoy householder life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. 17. O my Lord, your eternal self is never divided by the influence of time, and there is no limitation to your perfect knowledge. Thus you were sufficiently able to consult with yourself, yet you called upon me for consultation as if bewildered, although you're never bewildered. And this act of yours bewilders me. Oh, so sweet. 18. My Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, that transcendental knowledge which gives us enlightenment about yourself and which you explained before to Brahmaji. 19. When I thus expressed my heartfelt desires unto Bhagwan, the lotus-eyed Lord instructed me about his transcendental situation. 20. I have studied the path of understanding self-knowledge from my spiritual master Bhagwan, and thus, after circumambulating him, I have come to this place, very much aggrieved due to separation. 21. My dear Vidur, now I am mad for want of the pleasure of seeing him, and just to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badrikashram in the Himalayas for association, as I have been instructed by him. 22. There in Badrikashram, Bhagwan in his incarnation as the sages Nar and Narayan have been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities. 23. Sri Shukdev Goswami said, after hearing from Uddhav all about the annihilation of his friends and relatives, the learned Vidur pacified his overwhelming bereavement by dint of his transcendental knowledge. Vidur pacified his overwhelming bereavement by his 24. When Uddhav, the chief and most confidential amongst devotees of the Lord, was going away, and Vidur, in affection and confidence, questioned him. Vidur said, 25. O Uddhav, because the servants of Vishnu, the Lord, wander in the interest of serving others, it is quite fit that you kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened. That's what I was thinking. I mean, Uddhav said, I've been enlightened by Bhagwan, and then now I'm sad. And I was like, but what did Bhagwan enlighten you? What did he say? Tell us what he said. And now Vidur is asking Uddhav, please kindly enlighten us. 26. Uddhav said, you may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by Bhagwan while he was about to quit this mortal world. When Bhagwan was about to quit this mortal world, sage Maitreya was also instructed there at the same time, it seems like. 27. Shukdev Goswami said, O king, after thus discussing with Vidur the transcendental name, fame, qualities, etc. on the bank of Yamuna, Uddhav was overwhelmed with great affliction. He passed the night as if it were a moment, and therefore thereafter he went away. 28. The king inquired at the end of the pastimes of the Lord of the Three Worlds, Sri Krishna, and after the disappearance of the members of Vrishni and Bhoj dynasties, who were the best of the great commanders, why did Uddhav alone remain? 29. Shukdev Goswami replied, my dear king, the cursing of the Brahmins was only a plea, but the actual fact was that the supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. He thought to himself as follows. 30. Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I shall see that Uddhav, my foremost of devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with knowledge about me. 31. Uddhav is not inferior to me in any way because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate the specific knowledge of Bhagwan. 32. Shukdev Goswami informed the king that Uddhav, being thus instructed by Bhagwan, who was the source of all Vedic knowledge and the spiritual master of the three worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Badrikashram, and engaged himself there in the trance to satisfy the Lord. 33. Vidur also heard from Buddha about the appearance and disappearance of Bhagwan Krishna, the super soul in the mortal world, which is a subject matter sought after with great perseverance by great sages. 34. The Lord's glorious acts and his acceptance of various transcendental forms for the performance of extraordinary pastimes in the mortal world are very difficult for anyone other than his devotees to understand, and for the beasts, they are simply a mental disturbance. 35. Understanding that he was remembered by Bhagwan Krishna while quitting this world, Vidur began to cry loudly, overwhelmed by ecstasy of love. Oh, Vidur was also remembered by Krishna. 36. After passing a few days on the banks of river Yamuna, Vidur, the self-realized soul, reached the bank of the Ganga, where the great sage Maitreya was situated. Okay, that's it for this chapter. We'll do chapter 5 in the next video. Wish you all a very, very beautiful day. Radhe Radhe.